You know, your immune system is this incredible, sophisticated army fighting off invaders for you every single day. But what happens when that army gets confused? What if it can't tell the difference between a foreign threat and, well, you? In this explainer, we're going to dive into the delicate balance that prevents your body from declaring a full-blown civil war on itself.
Way back, over a century ago, the pioneering scientist Paul Ehrlich was so disturbed by this very idea, the immune system turning on its host, that he came up with a pretty dramatic name for it: horror autotoxics. I mean, the concept was just that repugnant, a biological horror story that for decades many scientists were like, no way, that can't possibly be real.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This isn't some hypothetical question. It's a battle happening inside all of us, all the time. Your immune system has to make this constant life or death call. Who is us and who is them? And when it gets that call wrong, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
Okay, so let's first really frame the problem our bodies are trying to solve here. When this whole system fails, we call it autoimmunity. And you can think of it as literally a self-inflicted wound where the body's own defenses are turned inward.
So you've got these two big opposing forces constantly at play. On one side, you have autoimmunity. That's the system breaking down, failing to recognize self. But on the other side, you have tolerance. And this is the active, ongoing process that stops that from happening. It's not about the body ignoring its own selves. It's about it actively protecting them.
And that brings us to the hero of our story, immune tolerance. This is the whole intricate set of tools and mechanisms that the body uses to establish and maintain peace, to prevent that internal civil war we were just talking about.
And what's really important to get is that tolerance isn't just a passive thing. It's not about doing nothing. It is a super active, highly regulated process. Your immune system is constantly working, constantly making sure its powerful weapons are aimed only at the real threats. So how does it pull this off? Well, you can think of it like a two-part security system. First, you've got central tolerance. This is like the training academy, or boot camp, happening in places like the thymus and bone marrow. It's where new immune cells get vetted. But hey, nobody's perfect. Some troublemakers slip through. And that's where peripheral tolerance comes in. These are like your secret agents out in the field, working in your tissues to shut down any rogue cells before they cause any real damage.
So during this vetting process, if a cell recognizes self, it hits a crossroads. It has one of three possible fates. First, it can be eliminated through programmed cell death. That's called apoptosis, just gone. Second, it can be basically switched off, rendered totally unresponsive. But this third option, wow, this is where the system's genius really shows. Instead of just destroying a potentially dangerous cell, the body can convert it, flip it, into a peacekeeper, a suppressor cell whose job is to maintain order.
And this brings us to this elite Special Forces unit that is absolutely critical to the mission: regulatory T cells, or Tregs for short. I mean, think about that for a second. The immune system has its own internal police force, and these guys aren't washouts. They are specifically chosen because they recognize self. Their entire job is to patrol the body and shut down any friendly fire they find. And these Tregs, they have a multi-pronged strategy. It's pretty amazing. First, they can go right up to the cells that are sounding the alarm and basically tell them to stand down. Second, they release these chemical signals that act like a ceasefire order, calming down all the other immune cells in the area. And third, they literally act like a sponge, soaking up all the growth signals that other T cells need to get activated, basically starving them of fuel. It's just an incredibly elegant system of control.
But, of course, sometimes even a system this elegant can fail, and when that tolerance breaks down, the body's army turns on its own citizens. The result is autoimmune disease.
And this is not a rare thing, not at all. We're talking about up to 8% of the entire population being affected by one of more than 80 different autoimmune diseases. That's a huge number, impacting millions and millions of lives. It really highlights just how crucial that perfect balance of tolerance really is.
And these diseases can look incredibly different from one another. In type 1 diabetes, for instance, the immune system targets the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. In multiple sclerosis, the attack is on the protective coating around your nerve fibers. And then you have a systemic disease like lupus, where the attack is widespread, going after fundamental building blocks of our cells, like DNA itself.
All right, so now for the final, kind of paradoxical twist in our story. What happens when the immune system's ability to protect self works a little too well? Well, this is the central problem of modern transplantation medicine.
Here's the paradox. The very same system that keeps us alive, this incredible defense mechanism that's so good at telling us from them, it sees a life-saving organ from a donor as the ultimate threat. And you have to realize the immune system isn't making a mistake. It's doing its job perfectly. It's just that its job is directly against our own best interests in this case.
Figuring out how to overcome this challenge has been a long, hard road. I mean, we've been transferring tissue on the same person for centuries, but it wasn't until 1954 that we had our first major success between two different people, a kidney transplant between identical twins, because they're genetically the same. The real game changer came in 1961, when a team managed the first successful transplant between non-identical relatives, finally crossing that genetic barrier and kicking off the modern era of transplantation.
Which really leaves us with this profound final thought. The immune system's entire job is to solve the puzzle of friend versus foe. So now, our great challenge in medicine is to teach that same system how to recognize and accept a life-saving friend, a transplanted organ. How do we do that? Well, the future of immunology really lies in answering that very question.